All right, welcome back to Onebar and Lupagus Show. I'm Onebar with Lupagus, and a very familiar face in the middle, as always. Walter from WalterFootball is in the house to talk some Vikings and NFL draft, baby. Walter, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on. And maybe my face is not too familiar, as you told me, because I have this beard now. I'm
Yeah,
not
who the
like
hell you were.
yeah. I forget that it's new, and like I was at a family gathering recently, and they're like, "Oh my God, you have a beard!" Like, so it's like for the first time. So maybe not too familiar here, but yeah. Like I said, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, I guess so. This is probably your third or fourth time on, something like that. And everybody knows WalterFootball. I mean, he's the grandfather of the mock draft, one of the most well-known mock draft sites out there. But my first question is: Have we graduated? Can we call you Walt? Does anybody call you Walt? Or is it an inner circle thing, or is that when
Walt
you're like?
football.
Is that when you're like old?
Yeah, I think you guys definitely call me Walt. When I was in college, I ran my site. That's how old it is. I started in '99 and I ran it. And so in my sports journalism class, my professor knew about it. And like when I'd raise my hand, he'd be like, "Yeah, Walter Football." So, yeah, I mean, I've been called that.
Nice.
My wife even told her mom when we first met. She joked that my last name was Football. And so her mom believed her too. So yeah, I mean, whatever you guys want to call me is fine.
Boy, you know what? I think I got to stick to Walter. Walt feels weird, so I'm sticking with Walter.
Okay.
So let's talk prospects out there. Is there a guy? I mean, it always happens. Is there a guy that you weren't just high on early in the process in this draft class that has just grown on you, like to the point where you actually really enjoy him?
Yeah, I guess you could say this kind of fits into what Minnesota might do. Like Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback from Washington, obviously everyone knows him. So I was down on him because he's 24, he has an injury history, but the workouts he's done during the pro day circuit, and I'm sure you guys saw his room, or I don't know if it was his apartment or whatever, but like his room is like decorated like in plays. It's kind of like like a madman. If it was like anything else, but like except for that on his wall, like we'd be like this guy might belong in like a mental institution. But like I'm sure the coaches love that kind of stuff, and we've seen so many quarterbacks over the years just not prepare, like not look at film. Like Blake Bortles is name one, Johnny Manziel, Jamarcus Russell. Like famously, there was I think they gave Jamarcus Russell blank videotapes and they told him to watch film. And then he told the coaching staff that he watched them. So it's like the polar opposite. And so I didn't know that. I mean, Penix, I always thought he was talented. I just was down on his injury history, but I didn't know he was like that enthralled into football. And so I think coaches would love that. And I think he goes higher than most people expect because of that.
Sweet. I did not see that picture, but I'm going to have to go search for that thing right now. After this. Walt, I want to ask you this. Toughest team for you to draft in the top 15?
You mean predict?
Just to predict for.
Okay. I think the Chargers, because everything I've heard with them is that, they want to take a tackle or they want to trade down. And I'm like, didn't you guys just get rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams? Like, don't you guys need a receiver? And like, they're going to have a receiver fall right into the lap because we know quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3. And then a quarterback might go 4, like maybe Minnesota trades up for 1, maybe the Giants, maybe the Broncos. And so the Chargers could get the top receiver in the draft, fall to them at number 5. But there are credible sources out there, not our sources, but like credible sources I've read saying that the Chargers want to trade down or grab a tackle, or I guess maybe both. They could do both. And so I just don't know what to believe because receiver makes the most sense. Receiver is going to be the best prospect available for them too. And so like and plus trades are always difficult to predict in mock drafts. Like predicting where the players are going to go is tough enough. And you also have to factor in trades. Like there could be trades at 4 and 5. And so teams moving up for quarterbacks, or maybe Arizona moves down from 4 to 11 and they move up to 5, 6, or 7 or 8. So I think you could see some crazy drafts going on. So I think the top 3 is pretty easy to predict. And then after that, it just could be mayhem.
Yeah, and your latest mock, spoiler alert, you even mentioned in there, like you generally don't do a ton of trades, but you have the Vikings trading up to 4 to get McCarthy. So you must be pretty dead set on that happening if you're going to put a trade in there.
I think Minnesota's trading up. I think they've almost telegraphed that because they traded for Houston's pick to kind of get more ammo to move up, and they don't really have a quarterback right now. I mean, apologies. I don't know if you guys like Sam Darnold or not, but
I don't think anybody likes Sam Darnold.
No.
Right.
I don't know if his parents like him.
Yeah, they're like, he's okay,
Yeah.
So the Vikings need a quarterback. They have the ammo to trade up. They have more ammo than anyone in that like 11 to 16 corridor where like 4 teams could trade up for a quarterback. So I think that if anyone makes the move, they'll make the move. And we know that Arizona wants to trade down. Mike Jurecki, who's one of the best team reporters out there, he said on his podcast that the Cardinals really want to trade down. And we saw them trade down last year. They moved from 3 to 12 and then up to 6. So they could do something similar this year. The Chargers, like I said, they want to trade down. So and I think the Giants, if they don't move up, they have so many holes in the roster. It just makes sense for them to trade down. So I think that there will be a trade of 4, 5, or 6. Just don't know which teams. And we don't know which team's going to move up. Like I think both Minnesota and Denver are pretty likely to trade up, or at least try to.
All right, 2 years from now, I mean, this can be an early draft. It can be a first round, or it can be a 7th round, or wherever it is. 2 years from now, who do you see we could look back and be like, damn, that was a steal of the 2024 draft?
I think Jalen Simpson, the safety from Auburn, I really like him a lot. I like these safeties or linebackers who were like incredibly instinctive, and I think that he applies here. I think last year on the show, I think I gave you Jair Brown when you guys asked me the same question. He's drafted by the Niners in the 3rd round, which I actually thought was a little earlier than I thought he'd go. I thought he's going to be like a 5th round sleeper or something like that. And he went 3rd round. He played pretty well as a rookie. So I like these safeties or linebackers who are really instinctive, and he makes a lot of plays too. The one downside with him is that he's pretty rail thin, so he needs to put on some bulk. But as long as he works hard and gets into a good fitness program with his team, I think he should be able to do that. So I think he could probably go like 4th, 5th round, maybe in that range, kind of like where Jair Brown went last year. And I think he could be a really good player for a team, and even right away, because I think that when you have a safety or a linebacker with great instincts, like that translates so well to the NFL right away, because they're going to know what's going on, and they're not as like big of a project as some other players are.
Nice, Jalen Simpson. All right, keep that in mind. Let's say the Vikings cannot move up to the top 5. They cannot get a trade. They cannot consummate that deal. They're stuck at 11. They take Michael Penix or Bo Nix. What would you grade that at 11 with one of those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd be radically different grades. I like Penix quite a bit. Like if Penix were 21 and didn't have an injury history, I think he'd be definitely in the conversation as a top 3 pick. Like he's so talented. It's just the extensive injury history and the fact that he's 24. That could cause him to fall. And like if he does fall to the 20s, it wouldn't surprise me. But I do think he'll ultimately go in the 11 to 16 range. Like I think the Raiders like him a lot. We actually just posted Charlie Campbell, our senior NFL draft analyst, posted an article on the site saying the Raiders are really considering Penix at 13. There are other options to tackle and corner, but it sounds like Antonio Pierce, the coach, really wants Penix. And I think the GM wants a tackle or corner, because I think the GM might think that, hey, we can take a tackle or corner here at 13 and then trade up for Penix, like use our 2nd round pick to move up and get Penix in the 20s. So I think that's what he's thinking. But if the Vikings take Penix at 11, I would grade that in the A- B+ range. Like I said, like I'd probably like argue that hey, maybe they could trade down a little bit, but then again, maybe not, because the Raiders could take him at 13. So I view that pretty favorably. With Bo Nix, I don't like Bo Nix at all. I think he reminds me of Christian Ponder or Blaine Gabbert.
It's too soon.
Yeah, it's like
still an open wound.
sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, guys who went in the 1st round who probably should have gone, or definitely should have gone in the 2nd round, maybe even 3rd round, because they just got pushed up and they went super high, like 10 and 12 for those guys. I think the same thing's going to happen with Bo Nix. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Denver moves up for Bo Nix. That's like kind of what I'm hearing. And like we had a guest on our show. We do a show on YouTube called the WalterFootball After Dark Show. We had a guest on who he runs another draft website, and he said that Denver would be smart to trade down and get Bo Nix. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. They could definitely move down and get Nix, and probably in the 20s, because I don't think I don't know anyone else who would want him really. I haven't heard any other buzz about him. It kind of reminds me of Kenny Pickett 2 years ago, where like the Steelers took him in the first round, and if the Steelers didn't do that, like he probably would have fallen to the second round because no one wanted him. And I think like Knicks has second round talent, but he's just being pushed up into the first round, and he's also 24. So like that's another negative with him. So if the Vikings took Knicks without trading down, I'd go like D or F with that. I just don't see it. I don't see first round talent with him. Now if the Vikings move down into the 20s and got Knicks, I think like it depends what they got, but I grade that pretty favorably because you have to take a shot on a quarterback.
Yeah, there's nothing more I like than WalterFootball grades because you don't sugarcoat things. If you don't like it, that thing is an F. That is a red, gross F. Yeah, so let's talk interior offensive linemen. Mid-round interior offensive linemen, whether they fall or who's a couple players that could come in and maybe make an impact immediately. I think I saw you had Cooper Beebe. Was it end of round 2? Maybe he was round.
Yeah, Cooper Beebe in round 2.
Yeah, so you must be big on him. But is there any like round? Because obviously we don't pick again until 108. Is there any guys in those mid rounds that we could get and maybe push for a starting job?
Yeah, I think maybe like Zach Zinter, the guard from Michigan. He has some injuries in the past, so I think that might push him down. But he's a pretty good pass protector. At least he projects that way for the NFL, and I think like he might go 4th round or something like that. Players who come into the NFL with injuries, they tend to fall. Like Juwan Taylor, for example. Remember, he was supposed to go like number 9 overall, and he fell to the 2nd round. Like I think something like that could happen with Zinter. Whereas like if he were healthy, he'd probably be 2nd, 3rd round pick. But given the injuries, he might fall to the 4th round. But I don't think like any of his injuries are like long term. Have long term ramifications. So I think he would be a good pick in the 4th round as someone who could protect the young quarterback. So. Yeah, I think even the other guard from Michigan too, Trevor Keegan, I think he's going to be around the same range. So, one of those two guys I think would make sense.
Nice. So this one's kind of random. We've not asked any draft analysts we've had on the show this before, so we're going to save it for you. Special teams.
It's a dandy too.
Any punters or kickers getting taken this year?
I honestly have not done any special teams work. I usually forget to put kickers and punters in my mock draft. And then like usually like 3 or 4 days before the draft, I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably put a kicker in there somewhere. But just based on our kicker rankings, I actually had to look it up. Will Reichard from Alabama looks like the top kicker. Like that's the extent of research I've done for kickers.
I don't blame you
so far.
I don't think anyone's going to blame you on that one.
Yeah, I always knock teams for drafting kickers like 7th round, whatever, who cares? But like. Even 6 rounds, okay, but like before the 6th round, I'm like, why are you drafting a kicker? Like, I think who was
Jake
it?
Moody. Jake Moody,
yeah. I mean, you have some good kickers like sometimes who are drafted, but like usually like I forget who it was. Someone drafted a punter like 1 pick before Russell Wilson went, or a couple picks before Russell Wilson went, and that team needed a quarterback too. And I'm like what are you doing here? I think it was Jacksonville drafting Brian Anger. I think that's what it was. So the kickers and punters, you can draft a good one, obviously, but you can find. I feel like that's a position that you could find so easily on the open market. Like how many times do you see, oh, Team X brought in this kicker, oh, he's doing well, he's hit 10 out of 11 field goals. It seems like so easy to find these guys on the street rather than like finding a quarterback on the street is impossible. Finding a good offensive lineman on the streets like almost impossible. But like finding a kicker or punter to bring in, that's been done so many times before. So like that's why I'm usually against teams drafting kickers and punters. Luckily, we don't see that in the 1st round anymore. So we saw that, what was it, 2000 with Janikowski? Yeah, Janikowski is the last one. So luckily that doesn't happen anymore. Although I guess I would love to grade Fs for those.
No explanation needed.
Yeah.
All right, I got a 2-parter here for you. Number 1, you got Sam Hartman going in round 4. Where you appear to love Sam Hartman more than most people. And the second part is, does your love for Sam Hartman have anything to do with your wonderful, beautiful beard?
So, I guess I saw Sam Hartman during the combine with that beard. Obviously beforehand too, but that was before I had my beard. So maybe he was my inspiration. I don't like. I wouldn't characterize love. Maybe just like a slight affection here. It's just that like I like people always ask me like who do you like in the mid rounds for quarterbacks? Like I was on the Jets podcast, and the Jets need a quarterback to groom behind Aaron Rodgers, and they're like, oh, who should the Jets draft as a quarterback in the mid rounds? I'm like I don't like any of these guys really. Like I think they're all like pretty pedestrian. Like I think Michael Pratt is like the guy I hate the least, but like everyone else is just so blah. Like Joe Milton's so raw. Like people are like, oh, they could fall in love with his talent, but like man, like he's a big project. He's gonna be like 2-3 years if anything. Michael Pratt's fine. Like Sam Hartman projects as like a long-term backup. Like I don't think he's ever gonna be a guy you're gonna want to have a starter. But I think like he's a smart guy. Like he's gonna be able to just kind of steady the ship if like your quarterback goes down for like 3 or 4 games. But he's never gonna be a guy like, oh, let's start Sam Hartman, you know. So I right now I have him in the 4th round. Actually, he was someone I moved out of that spot when I was trying to update my mock draft last night, but I fell asleep doing it. But he's someone I moved out of that spot. So I think he's probably going to be like the 5th round or so when all is said and done.
All right. Final. Or what do you got, Lupagus?
I was just going to ask him, I mean, is there one team the Vikings should fear above all others jumping them to get that quarterback 4 or maybe 3? Seeing how high up to go. So
the fact that the Raiders like Penix, you know, if you guys really want Penix more than the other guys, and I outside of the top 3, being Williams, Jane Daniels, and Drake May, I like Penix the most out of the next 3. So, it's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys prefer. Like if you guys like McCarthy more or Bo Nix, like hopefully not Bo Nix. But if you guys like Penix like I do, I would fear the Raiders because Antonio Pierce even said that he wants to trade up for a quarterback. I don't know if Tom Telesco, the GM, is going to do that, but that's what the coach wants at least. And sometimes the coach does get his way. Usually it's like if the coach is an offensive guy, like usually he gets his wishes with the offensive guy. Pierce is obviously a defensive player. He used to be a defensive player, he's a defensive guy, so he might not have the final say for quarterback. But the fact that he does want to move up for Penix suggests that like if you like Penix, you should probably fear them. It sounds like I said before, it sounds like the Broncos like Bo Nix, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. The Giants could do it. The Giants could move up. I don't think they should because their roster is so dreadful. I don't know how any quarterback could succeed on that team. Like they have no blocking, they have no receiver. They don't even have a number 2 receiver. Like that's how bad they are. And the defense is not even that good. So like I said, I think the Raiders above all else. I don't know what the Seahawks are going to do. I feel like they're kind of sending a lot of smoke out there. Like they've brought in quarterbacks for visits, but I think that's to kind of lure teams into drafting quarterbacks early so they get a good guy fall to them. But yeah, overall, I'd say the Raiders. I think you should fear them.
All right, final. We didn't really ask you about your rankings of your quarterback, but take Caleb Williams out of it, and you're the GM of the Vikings, who basically, I mean, like you said, we got Sam Darnold. Which quarterback? How do you rank these guys next 3, say after Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I like Jane Daniels, number 2. And it sounds like a lot of teams do as well. I think Washington's going to take Daniels. We don't know that for sure. But like sources that Charlie spoke to who know of Washington situations is like not a direct source. So they think that he's going to go to Washington. I think that he has a higher floor than Drake May, and he has a huge ceiling as well. I mean, he was so great last year, obviously for LSU. So I like him at number 2. Drake May has a lower floor. He's a kind of a raw player. I've heard comparisons to Josh Allen. I don't know if I'd go that far, but like he does have a huge ceiling. And so if he goes to a team with a great coaching staff and a great quarterbacks coach, I think that they could really develop him to being a great quarterback. But like if he goes to a team with a bad coaching staff, I think that could be really bad for him as well. So I think there's more there's more volatility with him. But I do love the upside. So those are my top 3. And then like I said before, Penix number 4. I like him better than the other ones. JJ McCarthy number 5 I don't love him either. I don't like, he probably belongs in the first round, but like, and he might go number 4. Like I have my mock draft. I'm just not a huge fan of his. I think his upside is pretty low. I've heard the comparisons to Mac Jones even. So I'd be a little worried taking him. And then Bo Nix, like I said, not a fan at all of him. In fact, like Spencer Rattler, I think he's closer to Spencer Rattler than he is to the other quarterbacks. I like him better than Rattler, but I think he's closer to Rattler than the other ones.
We're going to send you a shirt that says "I hate Bo Nix" on it. Wear it all the time.
I'll wear it next year if you do.
All right, Walter, as always, fantastic stuff. Everybody, I'd say check out your links. We'll put it down there anyways, but everybody already knows about Walter Football. And yeah, you got it. So you have a YouTube channel, After Dark? Sounds risque.
Oh yeah, it's we talk about anything. Usually the audience drives the show. It's live,
Nice.
and so it's Walter Football After Dark. You can search for it on YouTube, and then obviously my website WalterFootball.com. All the content's free, and we have a ton of content, so come check it out. And yeah, thanks guys for having me on.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank you.